Good morning, everyone. This is Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean. And as always, I appreciate you for joining the podcast. Could have gone anywhere, but you came here. Keeping with the script, I've had a lot of recommendations lately. And this one hits home pretty well. Because when you're in it, sometimes you feel like you're the only one going through it. But there are other people who are suffering as well. So today, this episode is probably one of the most honest conversations I've had in a while. Because I know I'm not the only person that wakes up some mornings with regret, frustration, and anger. In fact, as I mentioned, I know I'm not the only one because someone reached out and wanted me to talk about it today. Not excitement, not motivation, not rise and grind, frustration and anger. I'm talking about waking up and immediately remembering everything that did not work out. The opportunities that disappeared, the people that disappeared, the plans that failed, the life you thought you'd have by now. And the hardest part, sometimes the world expects you to wake up smiling while your mind is fighting a war before your feet even hit the floor. Now that's a bar. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes the world expects you to wake up smiling while your mind is fighting a war before your feet even hit the floor. How many times have you woken up, stared blindly at the ceiling, rubbing your forehead, shaking your head, just thinking, oh my God, life should not look like this right now. I should not be where I'm at. Why did I do X? Why did X happen? Why did this happen? Why did this go that way? I can't believe that I was laid off again. I can't believe I was in that relationship for that long. I can't believe I didn't invest in that stock. So many things go through your mind. So many. A lot of people don't understand what prolonged stress does to a human being, especially when you're used to being the strong one, the dependable one, the problem solver, the provider, the leader. People are comfortable watching strong people carry weight because they assume we're built for it forever. But eventually, even strong people get tired. Eventually, the person helping everybody else sits alone in silence, wondering, who is going to help me out of this situation? And let's be honest, regret is heavy. Regret will replay old decisions in your mind like a movie you never wanted to watch again. You start thinking, I should have saved more money. I should have taken that opportunity. I should have left earlier. I should have spoken up. I should have worked harder. I should have worked less. And after a while, your mind turns into a courtroom where you're both the defendant and the judge. You sentence yourself every single morning. Then comes frustration. Frustration from trying, frustration from waiting, frustration from doing all the quote unquote right things and still feeling stuck. That frustration gets dangerous because eventually you stop feeling inspired and start feeling invisible. You start questioning your value, your purpose, your identity, especially if your identity was tied to achievement. A lot of us were taught that our value came from what we produced, our titles, our income, our status, our ability to provide, our lifestyle, our demeanor. So when those things disappear, it can feel like you disappeared too. And then anger shows up. Not always loud anger. Sometimes it's quiet anger. The kind that sits in your chest. The kind that makes you emotionally exhausted. The kind that makes you irritated by everything. Because deep down, you're grieving the life you thought you'd have. Deep down, you're grieving the life you thought you would have. And grief doesn't only happen when someone dies. Sometimes you grieve old versions of yourself, lost opportunities, lost confidence, lost money, lost momentum, lost years, lost relationships, lost security. And society doesn't really teach us how to process that. It teaches us how to perform, not how to heal. So how do you survive this? How do you wake up every single day carrying regret, frustration, and anger and still move forward? First, stop pretending that those feelings don't exist. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to fake positivity 24/7. I created the Positivity Shop, and people did expect me to be positive all the time. I would get those comments. What happened to Mr. Positivity? That's why my first book was Positive and Real Talk for the Journey of Life. You can keep things real and be positive most of the time, but there's nobody on earth that's going to be positive 100% of the time. Ain't nobody squeaky clean. Listen, optimism matters, mindset matters, faith matters, but denial is dangerous. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. Some days you're angry, some days you're frustrated, some days you regret things. That does not make you weak, that makes you human. Next, stop turning temporary circumstances into a permanent identity. Just because life is hard right now does not mean you are a failure. Yes, life might suck at the moment, but it's going to turn. Everything is temporary. You might be 50 pounds overweight right now. You're not fat. You have fat. You can work on that. It's a temporary situation. Your current situation is not your permanent definition. Too many people confuse a season with a life sentence. A lost job is not a lost identity. A setback is not a death sentence. A delay is not proof your life is over. Next, you have to rebuild structure even when motivation disappears. This is the part that nobody likes to hear. You cannot wait for motivation to save you. Motivation disappears quickly. You've got to have discipline and consistency. Sometimes survival looks boring. It looks like getting out of bed anyway, going to the gym anyway, applying anyway, making the call anyway, taking the walk, drinking water, getting sunlight, praying, and trying again anyway. People think healing always looks inspirational. Sometimes healing looks repetitive, disciplined, quiet, uncelebrated. Next, stop isolating yourself completely. Pride will destroy you faster than failure sometimes. A lot of people disappear when they're struggling because they don't want others seeing them in a vulnerable state. Let me tell you something. Other people don't care. I used to tell my mother this all the time. My mom is a tremendous angel, a tremendous soul. She gives every single person on earth grace. And I used to explain to her when people would come and visit other relatives that lived very close to her, but they didn't come to see her. I would always ask, why do you hold them in such high regard when they don't even come knock on your door? If they cared how you were doing, they would come here. And she would always tell me, people have a lot going on in their lives. Who am I to judge what they're dealing with that might be keeping them from coming over here to say hi to me? I'll continue to pray for them. And maybe one day it'll be on their heart to come knock on the door. But even if they don't, when I see them at the grocery store or I see them at the reunion, I'll say hello, give them a hug, just like I would if they did knock on my door. Now that was powerful. A lot of people disappear when they're struggling. And I understand that feeling deeply. But isolation gives you negative thoughts, gives your negative thoughts a microphone. Most people need connection, even if it's one person, one friend, one mentor, one conversation. Human beings are not designed to carry emotional weight alone forever. And lastly, understand this. Your life may not look like you imagined it at this exact moment, but your story is not over. Some of the strongest people you've ever admired had seasons where they were mentally exhausted, financially stressed, emotionally broken, and completely uncertain about the future. You just never saw that chapter. We only see people after the comeback. We rarely see the survival phase. But survival matters. There is strength in surviving. There is courage in continuing. There is power in waking up again when part of you wanted to stay down. And if nobody told you this lately, I am proud of you for still being here. And that's real, and that's serious. Because some of you listening are carrying pressure silently that would break other people completely. The storm I'm in, I've mentioned that many times. There are people that have left this world for dealing with half of the things that I'm dealing with right now. Which is exactly why I created this podcast. There are things that people are going through, and they need to see someone who's also going through it, still showing up and still trying, even sometimes when I don't want to. There are many days of regret, anger, and frustration on this side of the mic. But I try to grab whatever, even if it's, what they say, the faith the size of a mustard seed. If I have mustard seed sized motivation, discipline, consistency, energy, the size of a mustard seed, I get down here and I do this podcast and I knock out these episodes because I truly believe through God, He's using me as a vessel to provide information to people, to give them a voice, because a lot of people do not want to talk about what they're dealing with. And I learned a long time ago that people don't care one way or the other whether or not you're dealing with something. Most people. Those angels are always going to show up. Those devils are too. So you do what's necessary for the good side. So if you woke up today with regret, frustration, or anger, don't let those emotions convince you your life is over. Feel them, process them, learn from them, but do not build a permanent home inside of them. Because one day this season you're barely surviving may become the story that helps somebody else survive theirs. And that matters. I appreciate you all for listening. If this episode connected with you, share it with somebody that might need to hear this right now. And remember, surviving today may be the first step toward rebuilding tomorrow. As I mentioned, the story with my mother earlier, I truly believe that mothers are on a different frequency than most of us because they're able to see things, they're able to process things, and they're able to go through things and come out on the other side seemingly unscathed. And you're wondering, how in the world did she do that? There's a level of godliness in most mothers that many of us will never obtain. I thank God for her every single day. Even when we may have our disagreements or challenging conversations, because I may not want to hear what she has to say sometimes, but I always listen. So today, do what is necessary to show up, show out. And if somebody's been trying to help you in your life, and maybe you've been pushing them away because of the frustration, the anger, and regret that you have, let them know you appreciate them. Because when you're in this state, we are sometimes very difficult to deal with. And that's okay, because we're not where we thought we would be. But if we keep working and we keep believing, one day things will turn. Till next time, this is Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean. And as always, I hope you have a blessed day and a blessed week.